Welcome to another episode of Radio City Freedom Exchange with me, Vijayalakshmi, and joining me are two very, very talented and I don't know how, I was just listening to their recent song, Tum Aur Main, and I can only say that I have not heard more divine voices than the two of them recently. Joining us is Nikitaa and Nikhil D'Souza. Thank you guys so much for joining me this afternoon. Firstly, how are you both doing?
Nikhil, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just like it's busy days, which is a good thing for most indie musicians to be able to say that these days. I just actually got here from a studio, and having said that, it's been a busy December with with this song coming out, and then I'm working on a couple of others, and a remarkable change from where we were even 2-3 months ago when there was really nothing to do. And we were just sitting on our hands wondering what to do next. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying the fact that it seems like the scene in general is just kind of crawling back to some sort of normalcy. Yeah, I think it's good. I'm doing all right.
Well, first of all, thank you for that lovely introduction. That was amazing. I'm doing pretty good myself. Like Nikhil said, just keeping really busy. It's been a surprisingly busy December, so that's it's always good, to be busy.
So, Nikita and Nikhil, I want to first begin by asking you both. This has been a very, very challenging and a very, very exhausting mentally and physically for so many of us. And I'm sure it's been a lot more taxing on artists, especially because, first of all, the opportunities are limited. There's so much of restrictions because of the pandemic. And I'm sure that must have resulted in, for both of you to have created a lot more content than what you would want to normally put out. Because even Nikhil has had an EP this year with Buck. And Nikita, you also released two English singles also in 2020. How do you look back at the year in retrospect now that we are ushering in 2021 in just a few days?
It was a shockingly busy year. I did not expect to keep myself that busy, especially through lockdown and pandemic. Grateful for it, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to I don't want to say normal necessarily, because a lot of what was normal for us before wasn't exactly the greatest thing ever, but I'm looking back to working with more people as opposed to working pretty much doing everything by myself. It was very DIY, like doing the videos myself, doing all the content, like you said, creating so much content, especially as independent musicians, and doing a lot more of it yourself than you're used to, which was a great learning experience. But at the same time, I'm getting ready to to delegate to other people again. So yeah, it's been a great year now. A lot of learning, a lot of growth, and a lot more listeners, which is always exciting.
Yeah, and for me, it's a lot of the same stuff that Nikita just spoke about. It was also a year of kind of taking a step back and trying to figure out a different way of doing things. When you're when you don't have access to studios, when you don't have access to a lot of other resources that you would normally have, you kind of tend to try and do these things yourself. So with Waqt, for example, I produced two of the songs myself, and two of the other two were done completely remotely. In fact, the song with Nikita was done in that same manner. We kind of I recorded it in my bedroom, and prior to that, like prior to the experience of doing Waqt, people, all of those songs from home during the pandemic, I wouldn't have even thought of kind of getting that microphone out and setting it up and finding the right settings for it, and to a point where it would sound professional. I didn't need to do that. I just had to go to a studio and get that done. So I think getting self-reliant, that's putting this year in perspective, is like, I know I can probably put music out by myself if I have to. I can do that. I think this year has been about finding new ways to do these things. Even it comes to videos, for example, I figured that you don't just have to take a big bag of money and throw it at someone and say, make me a video. You can always collaborate with people. You can always say, hey guys, let's work on a video. You can own part of it, we will own part of it as the artist, but we will give you ownership of some of it as well. Those are some independent ways of doing it. they don't work with major labels, but as indie artists, you do, and you can afford to do these things. So this is the other thing I figured out, during this last year, which I will carry on to the next year.
Yeah. And like where those videos are shot as well, because for me, a lot of that was happening at home. So getting like very creative with that process, and like building on what Nikhil said, is like having to learn to do all of these things yourself. When now taking that into a new space where things start opening up and you start working with other people, also recognizing your own words, recognizing the kind of time and effort that goes into these things, and that goes into recording or budgeting for a video or things like that. And just as an independent artist, I feel like that's very empowering. It teaches you a lot about how much you're putting into a project versus how much you need to put into a project, for example, things like that.
But Nikhil and Nikita, since you both are, you both spoke about the music video. I want to first ask how challenging or how much could you innovate, in bringing out this video? Because when you look at the video, it's very fitting that you released a song like this in a time when actually people are finding it very hard to find love, really, because thanks to social distancing and everything. I can say for myself surely, because it's not that before the pandemic I wasn't getting to ask every year single, if that was, if I may say that. Now again, like when we look at life post COVID, it's like somewhere this music video just clearly shows it's very virtualistic. It's very futuristic. Sorry, it's very futuristic, and there are. I mean, both the man and the woman are looking at holographic images of the other person and thinking, I mean, can we at least get this kind of love if nothing else? It's not a physical part of it. No, I just want to ask you, how challenging was it? Or, how did you what was the concept behind making this video?
So the concept of the video actually came from the music video's director, Parashar. I was completely blank on the video because I actually wrote the song way before the pandemic started. So for me, I was having a hard time sort of building that bridge from what the song was about to what's happening currently in our reality. And Parashar was beautifully able to connect those two, and he's the one that sort of came up with this idea of like, because that's kind of like you said, like that's kind of what we're living right now, is this very like the only way to connect with people, even people we care about deeply, is mostly through the phone. You can't really go see people in the same way anymore. And we wanted to take that idea and like jumpstart it into the future and see how that would play out. I mean, it was fun. It was the first video this whole year that I actually went to a set. I was on set and there was a whole crew and things like that. So there was like definitely a transition period for me through the day where I've gotten so used to, on the flip side of things, so used to doing things on my own that having a whole crew there was a little unsettling in the beginning, comforting in a way because I didn't have to do everything myself, but also a little bit unsettling. But it was a fun experience. It was really fun, and it was really kind of cool because we were kind of living that experience real time, right? Where you can't touch the other person. Literally on set, you're not supposed to like make contact with each other. So it was like a little running joke on set between Smaran and I, who plays my love interest in the video. It's a little running joke between the two of us. And the only scenes where we did touch, we were like using sanitizer in the middle of each cut of the scene. So it was quite ironic and really silly by the end of the day. We made it funny for ourselves. But yeah, it kind of played out in real time. What you're seeing on screen was playing out for us in real time as we were shooting it.
I want to ask you, independent music has, somewhere it has kind of flourished in this period, clearly, even despite all the restrictions around us, despite, live gigs getting cancelled, despite venues not being open for musicians to perform.
Yeah.
Still, the music streaming platforms have, opened so many avenues for artists, not just music streaming platforms, even YouTube. We've seen a surge of releases this year. We've seen so many artists from so many different nooks and corners of the world, of our country, put out so much work. Nikhil, you really put out your EP, where we were just about unlocking here in Mumbai. I just want to ask the two of you that when you are when something like this happens, when you see an opportunity as an artist, what is the immediate instinct? Of course, you want to put your work out. You want as many people as possible to hear what you're saying. But despite all the limitations, I mean, how can an artist or the team around it ensure that there are more people, that you get the required listening, you get the required audience, or at least it meets the expectation somewhere, it satiates you.
I say the key here is for indie musicians to focus like on a sound, on a particular vibe or something that fans can latch onto, and kind of like fans need to recognize you by a certain kind of sound or a certain kind of thing. So if you experiment too much, if you go too out of the fold, it kind of confuses people. It also confuses like the editors at streaming platforms, saying, where do we put this artist? We don't really know. So I think what the streaming platforms has done is to show us that, okay, guys, here are these playlists, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We think you belong on, mostly this one and this other one, and you're gonna, and then based on that, you're like, okay, I know where my audience is. You put out a song, you go kind of like an iterative approach. You see how many people are really vibing to this. Is this what they really like? Make a couple of changes, come back again with a stronger song or whatever you do. But I think it's kind of, where we are right now, it feels like the wild west of the music industry right now. It's kind of like we don't know what's going to really work. So the streaming platforms themselves are really young. The playlists are really young. The listeners are just tuning in now. So I feel is that you put work that you really believe in and work that represents you correctly, because this is what will build up your fan base and will be of help in the next few years. That's what I think, really. Yeah.
I just want to quickly end by asking the guys, now that we are all about to set a brand new year in, what are the big plans firstly? How do you guys want to go about it? Are you all taking any pressures on you to put out more content, or you all want to put out when you all know you're ready and it's the right time?
Let's just say that this whole year, starting from when I put out Sitare in August last year, has been a learning process. It's like, you put out a song, you see the response, you understand where it peaks, where it drops off, you see all of those things. And you realize you realize that in this, the kind of digital age we're living in, where it's mostly about streaming and it's about algorithms, it feels like, you need to kind of put out a song every month or every 6 weeks at least. It feels like that. And I mean, it is what I am aiming towards as well, whether it's like, put out a song completely as a solo artist, or like how we did with Nikitaa, how we did Tum Aur Main, or even something that leans towards Bollywood. As long as you're constantly putting out stuff every 6 weeks, you're kind of okay. And that is my plan too. But at the same time, I'm pushing myself harder, because I don't want to put out just anything. You put out a song every 6 weeks, but you need to keep that audience, you need to keep them interested, and you need to build towards a plan and build towards like a sound, and like show them that I am, this is who I am as an artist. So I'm working extra hard now because I really have to also.
I think Nikhil said it perfectly. I mean, I personally found, for me, I maybe can extend it to like 8 weeks, but then there needs to be something coming out. And I did, my goal in 2020 was to consistently drop music, and that's exactly what I saw. Like, people respond to that consistency very well. And it's with the digital age, there's so much content coming at people. It's like out of sight, out of mind. The moment they stop seeing you on their feeds, the moment they stop seeing you on their Spotify or whatever other platform they use, they're out of their minds, because there's so much coming at them. So to keep them engaged, you have to keep creating. But at the same time, like Nikhil said, you don't want to, I mean, I at least the same way, I don't want to drop anything that I don't personally believe in, that I don't think is ready, that's not consistent with what I've been doing in terms of messaging, lyrics, sound, all of those things. Because that's also not just on a creative and an integrity you want to maintain, but also as somebody who's earning money off of this, you don't want to have your music fly over people's head and be like, okay, what was this out of nowhere, you know? So that's definitely something to keep in mind moving forward, and having a larger agenda or a plan for yourself is always a good way to go, because then you can find ways for the music you're creating into that and plan accordingly and move forward accordingly.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for having us.